Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at Song of Songs chapter 5 in our continuing study of this book. Last time we had the groom speaking all throughout, and then the bride spoke right at the end in the very last verse in chapter 4. As we begin now, the groom is going to start off speaking the first few verses, and then the bride's going to pick up, and it will be her speaking throughout most of the rest of the chapter. So I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride, and there again she's called the bride. Remember that the garden had been that area that had been locked. It had been closed, but now it has been open and he's been within. That's a euphemism. It's a polite way of describing the consummation of their marriage. I have gathered my myrrh along with my balsam. I have eaten my honeycomb and my honey. I have drunk my wine and my milk. Eat, friends, drink and imbibe deeply, O lovers. This was just a glorious time that they've had in their honeymoon. So the garden theme was introduced back in chapter 4, verse 12, and now the lover has entered the locked garden. Notice gathered, eaten, drunk, the call to eat and drink. Verse 2, now the bride speaks briefly. I was asleep, but my heart was awake. A voice, my beloved, was knocking. And so here is another sleeping sequence. We've seen these before. And she's speaking, but she's quoting the groom. Okay. Open to me. She remembers, or maybe she hears his words. Open to me, my sister, my darling. Now the term darling, um, that's going to elsewhere be translated my friend or companion. I like darling. It has that idea. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is drenched with dew, my locks with the damp of the night. Um, there has been, can I say it politely? There's been some lovemaking going on. Now the bride speaks, verse 3. I have taken off my dress. How can I put it on again? Why is she going to put it on again? Well, we're going to see in a second. I have washed my feet. How can I dirty them again? Now, the part about the dress, remember that clothing has been removed, but remember, hers was a locked garden. That in opening, there's a little bit of bleeding involved in just the physical mechanics of this. And so just read that into the text. There's some things that you don't normally wear out in public. And so that's the question here as she awakens. Verse 4, my beloved extended his hand through the opening, and my feelings were aroused for him. I arose to open to my beloved, and my hand dipped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the bolt. Are we talking about literal openings? Or are we talking about something that's still within her body? It's not entirely clear, but she's awakened, and we're going to have a change of venue in just a moment. Verse 6, I opened to my beloved. She's ready to, they've opened in the past, that there's been this wonderful consummation. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and had gone. He's not there. What happened? My heart went out to him as he spoke. I searched for him, but I did not find him. I called to him, but he did not answer me. So she looks, she calls, and he's not there. And we saw something similar to this. Notice verse 7, the watchman who made the rounds in the city found me. They struck. Now, watchmen had been mentioned before, but this is a bit more extreme. They struck me and wounded me. The guardsmen of the wall took away my shawl from me. Verse 7. So back in chapter 3, we had a similar event where she seeks him in the night and doesn't find him, and she goes about the city, and there's watchmen mentioned. And again, that's mentioned here in these verses where she seeks him in the night and doesn't find him, goes about the city, and the watchman, and this time it's a bit more extreme. So these are two parts. Were they dream sequences? How are we to understand them? I think they're in both cases between the marriage and the honeymoon, between the wedding and the honeymoon. We had seen these as sort of bookends the problems that led to the marriage, and now after the marriage, after the wedding, after the honeymoon, again we see this for a second. It's not going to be very long. That's okay. Verse 8, I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, and she's still speaking, if you find my beloved as to what you will tell him, for I am lovesick. So she's speaking to the daughters of Jerusalem. And again, we saw that reference to, we called it, the translation goes lovesick. I think the NIV said something to the effect of faint with love. I think that's probably a little more clear. And then the daughters of Jerusalem answer, what kind of beloved is your beloved, O most beautiful among women? What kind of beloved is your beloved that thus you adjure us? So they're asking for information. They're asking for a description, and she's going to give it. Now we had in the last chapter we had his description during the consummation. We're going to see his description again in the next chapter. But in the meantime, let's look at the bride speaking of her beloved. My beloved is dazzling and ruddy. That is, he's got a good outdoor complexion. Now she had said, "I'm darkened by the sun," and that didn't look good, or so she thought. Her self-image was, gee, I haven't really taken care of myself. He's just he's just something else. Outstanding among 10,000. Verse 11. His head, oh, by the way, that term ruddy, Edom. Remember, you have the one of the names that Esau had was Edom, or we would say Edom, and it was both a name of a person, but also the name of a place that land south of Israel, and the rocks tend to actually be red there. Ruddy is sort of a red thing, and there's a whole red motif in the story of Esau. I remember how he goes out and Jacob is going to try to sort of con him with a bowl of soup, but the bowl of soup is actually a bowl of red stuff, and there's a whole red theme there. But that's not what's here. Here we have my beloved is dazzling and ruddy. That's how David had been described, like father, like son, and outstanding among 10,000. His head is like gold, pure gold. Now, I don't think it's saying he's got blonde hair, because it's going to be described in a second as black as a raven. His locks are like clusters of dates. Again, sort of wild, disheveled hair. Black as a raven. His eyes are like doves. Beside the streams of water, bathed in milk and reposed in their setting. He's not bug-eyed or anything like that, and yet there's a certain gentleness to his eyes. That's why they're described like doves. Verse 13, his cheeks are like a bed of balsam. I think this is the idea where they're, I don't know about smooth, or I'm not sure if he's got a beard or not. It didn't really say. Maybe this is somebody who's bearded when we see the banks of sweet scented herbs. But notice his beard isn't rough and dirty. It's clean and sweet, and his lips are lilies dripping with liquid myrrh. His hands are rods of gold set with beryl. His abdomen is carved ivory. I mean, this guy is backed, and he is just tremendous looking, inlaid with sapphires. He looks rich, not in the sense of sitting back and some fat guy that amassed riches, but he's in the prime of life and the prime of health, and to her eyes, he is just Mr. Perfect. His legs are pillars of alabaster set on pedestals of pure gold. His appearance is like Lebanon, choice as the cedars. This guy is big, and he's strong, and he's solid. Verse 16, his mouth is full of sweetness, and he is wholly desirable. she wants him, and she has him. This is my beloved, and this is there's that same term. We've rendered it friend, we've rendered it companion, but I think my darling, that was the same word there. This is my friend, my Ra'ah, O daughters of Jerusalem.